Hello and welcome to CX Today. My name is Charlie and today I'm delighted to be joined by Pete Brown, CX and Customer Engagement Expert at Cisco. Pete, it's great to have you join us. How are you doing today?
I'm very well, Charlie. Thanks for the opportunity to have this session. I'm really passionate about what we're doing around the whole AI and agent piece, and very pleased to have the opportunity to tell you and your listeners what we're up to.
Yeah, it's going to be a great discussion. We're going to be talking about the contact center agent of the future and the latest innovations that we have around that kind of critical agent role. But I think maybe the best place to start this conversation is by asking you kind of what do contact center agents say they need to deliver great customer service experiences?
It certainly is a good question, and you can't really go any further without knowing the answers to that. So at Cisco, we subscribe to lots of research, as you can imagine, lots of analyst reports. We're always looking at trends. There's a whole load of formal and informal information that comes into our organization. And what we noticed really 2 years ago, that most of that is macro level stuff. So there's a lot of research around contact centers, where they are, what sectors they serve, how many agents there are in them, what technology they use. But we found it really hard to identify and find sources of information that really focused on the individuals, the people that worked in contact centers. So about 2 years ago, we embarked on a whole program of primary research focused on contact centers in the Americas, in the EMEA region, and Asia Pac, and basically started speaking to agents in contact centers, interviews, structured research, proper research. And we started to identify different personas. And what we noticed was across the world, these things are fairly consistent. The names and the details change, but the general principles remain the same. We identified different personas. So, from the newbie to the service-focused agent, the sales-focused agent, the Swiss Army knife who does a little bit of everything, and the Uber specialist. And what they told us in our research and in our travels was that fundamentally they want three things. It's quite simple. There was lots of talk around it, but the three things are very clear and very consistent. The first one is relating to, I guess, the technology and the systems that they use. They want empowering tools. I mean, this is really a statement of the obvious. They want tools that help them and not hinder them. They want IT and technology that really puts them in a position where they can be the best they can, minute by minute, call by call, day by day. That's the first thing. The second thing they say they want is support, but they're very specific about where they want it from. They want their supervisors to be better at supporting them. I think most agents recognize that supervisors were once agents. There's a lot of learning, there's a lot of experience, there's a lot of knowledge there. And quite often, supervisors are actually doing anything but supervising. They're doing lots of other things. So that was the second thing. And the third one is is a softer thing. It's more about the emotional well-being of an agent as a human being, not as an employee or a number. And they want to be felt like they're cared for. And this isn't an HR and health and safety thing. This really is about well-being and looking after, mental health, mental state, those sorts of things. So those were the three themes. Maybe we shouldn't have been surprised, but actually the clarity of them and the consistency of them was quite surprising.
Yeah, absolutely. I think those are three really great pillars there: empowerment, support, and well-being, as you mentioned. And it would be great now to kind of take a look at one innovation for each of those. That kind of Cisco and Webex, the Webex Contact Center, is kind of putting out there into the space. And when we think about the theme of agent empowerment, I think Webex's transcript and wrap-up solution could work wonders. Could you maybe tell us a little bit about how that solution works?
Absolutely. So we've all called a contact center, and we get a nice greeting, and we start our call. And then you start to get the impression that maybe the agent isn't giving you 100% of their attention. They seem distracted. That feels like there's something else going on. And there's a reason for that. There is something else going on. When you look at what agents actually do, I'm sure many of our listeners are working in and around contact centers. They already know this. They're complex places. There's a lot going on the desktop. There's a lot going on around. So what we're really striving to do is to take away the overhead that goes with being an agent and do as much as possible to have them focus on the conversation with the customer. And our goal is to make it 100% focused on the customer, so that the technology does the rest of the work and the heavy lifting. So if you look at a call, the first thing that happens with agents in a contact center is they're typically spending a lot of time listening, but they're really focused on taking notes, recording outcomes, thinking about the next best action, and all the processes and systems that go with that. And just to make it interesting, somebody said, the faster you can do this, the better you are at it, which is a sort of counterintuitive. So what we've done is looked at our whole gambit of AI technologies and said, okay, where does this start? If we're going to automate that process of note taking and flagging next best action, we need to have good data to start with. And that starts with voice recordings. We've been recording voice in our contact centers for years, and it's been a bit hit and miss. On the whole, they're accurate, but when we're looking at applying AI to transcribe based on live voice recordings, it needs to be 100% accurate. So Cisco has two quite technical innovations that really help here. The first one is customer end noise cancellation. So if you are on your mobile phone, standing, under the speaker in the train station and it booms, that's a killer for any voice recording in a contact center. So our customer end noise cancellation just removes that, so that there's clarity at both ends. Noise cancellation has been in a contact center for a long time with agent headsets, not so much at the other end. So first of all, we're harmonizing and upping the quality at both ends. The second thing we've developed is a low bandwidth codec, which is specifically designed to fill in the gaps in a broken conversation. Again, we'll go back to the mobile. Mobile signals are great, but they're not perfect. So sometimes they drop in and drop out. Our codec's using AI to basically say, okay, this is what we believe was said. At the end of the day, that means that we've got very accurate voice recordings, which means we have very accurate transcripts. That then moves into a world where we can say, okay, we can take notes. We can transcribe the whole call. AI can then summarize those notes so that they mean something from a system perspective. We can pull out the next best actions. We can pull out the outcomes. And in that way, the agent is able to focus on what's important, which is listening to and empathizing with the customer. That's basically what the transcription technology is doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, lots of really great stuff there. And I didn't mention the noise cancellation that you mentioned there, but it's such a breakthrough, actually. Well, I can remember when I went into a few contact centers maybe 3-4 years ago, and there were all sorts of things like acoustics, ceiling tiles, and soft furnishings everywhere. So I think that advancement, right, in addition to those transcripts and wrap-ups, is kind of an important one to mention. So thanks for that. And let's maybe now move on to the kind of support element of the kind of agent experience. There is a Webex coaching highlight solution that can help give agents that extra support. Could you also maybe tell us a little bit about how this one works?
Yeah, so this is again important because we start to get the first solution we spoke about, the transcription. There's something in it for the agent, there's something in it for the business, there's something in it for the customer, and it really has to be that way. Otherwise, these things don't fly. There has to be something in it for everybody. So when we look at the whole piece around supervisor highlights, absolutely, it's designed to make supervisors more effective at being supervisors. So when I go to contact centers, and I still do, I used to work in one, and I still go and I still listen to calls and speak to people. I have to say, not much has changed. There's a lot of talk about agent enablement and engagement, but actually, it still feels like optimization. We're gonna take our agents. We're going to work them hard. We're going to give them all the tools they need, whether they're helpful or not. We're going to work them hard. When they get stressed and they've had enough and leave, we're going to recruit a replacement, and we're going to do exactly the same thing. And that feels, I'm being a bit harsh maybe on our industry, but that's how it feels sometimes. So what we're really looking to do is free up time for supervisors to do the mentoring job, but very crucially, give them a laser beam rather than a shotgun when it comes to focusing on issues and focusing on the people with those issues, so that they can be very specific with the remedies and the mentoring and the coaching that goes with it. So using really the same data lake that we've acquired for the transcription solution, we're just putting different guide rails around the AI to say, okay, we know what good looks like. We know what good sounds like. We can take in, the business outcome data. We can look at our real-time CSAT, auto CSAT capability now, which basically sends out survey requests during or at the end of a call. So we've got it right where we need it. And we're really just taking that information, analysing it, and saying to our supervisors, there's a specific issue here. Or actually, there's a specific case of something that's going really well here. There's a specific use case that you need to be aware of. There's a specific problem. It means that we're helping our supervisors to do what they've always said they want, and that's manage by exception. Yet we still have team meetings, but team meetings become something that's a little bit more positive, whereas the specifics of coaching and mentoring become something that is very focused because AI is serving that up. So our supervisors can look at basically a whole list of issues, a whole list of priorities, focus on the people that need their help most, and drive forward that way. And in that way, we're making our agents more effective, and we're also making our supervisors more effective at the same time.
Yeah, I think that tailored agent coaching is something that has been missing maybe for a long time. So it's great to see such innovations. And I suppose if you take it to the wider contact center level too, you can kind of spot issues that impact the whole team, and you can look that can inform maybe your automation strategy as well, or kind of your kind of broader kind of coaching strategy too. So lots of really good stuff there. And I think that's a really great innovation. But now let's maybe look towards the kind of third element that you mentioned at the start of the conversation, and that is well-being. I think Webex's agent burnout solution that was kind of recently released is a really awesome solution here. So I was wondering if you could maybe also kind of explain a little bit about what this is and how it works.
Okay. In some respects, it's so simple that you could dismiss it. So that's what I'd say right up front. Don't dismiss it, because we have a lot of good data to say that this works. Going back to our research, when we spoke to agents, we actually recorded tens, if not hundreds of hours of interviews. And actually using AI, we transcribed them and word spotted and came up with a word cloud. And there was one word right in the middle of that word cloud in 6-foot high letters, and it was stress. Stress and stressful are the words that agents use more than any to describe the environment in which they work, and basically the day that they've had and the day that they're expecting to have tomorrow. Stress is, like a lot of things, there are two types of stress. There's good stress and there's bad stress. Good stress is the sort of thing that gives me butterflies when I'm doing an interview like this with you just beforehand. Just keeps you on your toes. The sort of thing that just keeps you alive and gives you that little bit of adrenaline and a little bit of impetus to do a good job. That's good stress. The bad stress is, well, literally it's a killer actually, if you take it to its extent, but it's very negative. It's an accumulative thing. It's just repetition of stress, and it builds and it builds and it builds. And when you think about it, a contact center is probably an exemplary example of a cumulative stress environment. The agent comes in, they log on, they sit down, they have a good call, but they're expecting the bad one, then it arrives, then they get stressed, and they end up not just worrying about the call they're on, they're worrying about the call they just had, they're worrying about the call that's coming, and it just is relentless. It feels relentless. So what we did was, again, looked at the market and actually started to focus on a little bit of psychology rather than technology, and heard stories about how we can break that stress cycle. And the important thing is that if you're going to do something, if you're going to intervene in that stress pattern, it's most effective at the point of need, when the agent is stressed. And what we've tried with a number of our customers, but notably a retail bank, a large retail bank, is using AI to identify stressors in the contact center, to identify indications of stress at the agent level, and then breaking that stress cycle with something that we're calling a mini break, a 60-second break. The agent stays at their desk. When they come out of wrap on the call, rather than immediately feeding them the next one, which is what happens in most cases now, we sense that stress and we say, okay, Charlie, calm down. We're going to serve up some content that's meaningful to you, that's going to bring back a bit of light into your darkness. It's going to give you something to remind you why you're here. It could be your favorite comedy clips, it could be your favourite music, it could be photographs of your family, your loved ones, your friends, whatever that is, 60 seconds of goodness. And it actually works. People have said to me, well, Pete, but they get their breaks. Well, you think about an agent going, an agent gets a 15-minute break probably in the morning, 15 in the afternoon, lunch in the middle. And they leave their desk. The first thing they do is go out, get a coffee, and they talk to the other agents about how tough it is working in that call centre. And then maybe they pick up their mobile phone and go and check their messages or social media and get some bad news from their partner about a package that had to arrive today that isn't coming. And then maybe they make the mistake of looking at the news and seeing what else is going on in the world, and then wander back to their desk, probably more stressed than they were when they left it. So what this 60-second break is really doing is just saying, right, this is for you. This is some proper quality me time, and it breaks the stress cycle. So it's much more about psychology than technology. The technology is actually very straightforward. Once you get through the AI analysis of it, the technology is very straightforward. But like a lot of great ideas, simplicity works.
Yeah, and it'll be, I can sense kind of how passionate you are about this one. It seems to be having real success in the actual implementations that you're doing at Cisco and Webex.
Yes.
You mentioned there kind of an example of a bank. I was wondering if you had any kind of examples of this being a real big kind of difference maker within the organization.
Yeah, we're actually we're running a beta program at the moment for a lot of this stuff, because we recognise that whilst maybe our customers would expect, we should know this, the fact of the matter is that the technology is one thing, the application of it is another, and the speed at which AI works and the amount of data that it can actually ingest, it starts to almost demonstrate empathy very quickly. So understanding the softer side of this is quite important. So I can give you some stats, actually. I learned a long time ago that Cisco loves its stats and loves its numbers. So we've looked very closely at some of the beta trials we've done. So typically they've been champion challenger agent groups, between 60 and 100 agents, so not insignificant groups, just going through their day job, with one group being served up these mini stress breakers, and the other one just getting on with their job as normal. So as stress builds, what we saw before these mini breaks were implemented, as stress builds, we start to see average handle time increase up to maybe 25%, significant. We see the number of calls going on hold increase by 2 or 3 times. We see the amount of time spent in wrap increase 25 to 30%. Those 3 behaviours are agents just escaping the next call or putting the inevitable off as long as possible. So those 3 things. And what we also see is a drop in customer sat. When we measure it in real time or near real time, using our auto CSAT capabilities I already mentioned, we can see this. So when people become stressed, human beings are great at transferring that stress onto other people. And we're so good at it, we can do it down a telephone line. We don't even have to see each other. You can hear it in intonation and whatnot. So you get this double whammy of agent productivity dropping whilst customer sat drops. And sort of 80% of the agents that we spoke to in our surveys reported stress at some point. So beforehand, we're seeing these drops in AHT. When we implemented the mini breaks, and this pattern again is pretty common amongst the beta customers that we've implemented in, the first thing we saw was between 13 and 15% decrease in stress being reported at all, which is significant. The second thing we saw, that there was a 40 or 50% decrease in the increase in AHT, if you see what I mean. So AHT increased, but it was basically 40 or 50% less than it would have done otherwise. Significant. And for me, the most unexpected one was that customer sat actually increased. So the retail bank that I'm talking about, and I think the case study, if it's not out there in the public domain, it will be soon, had a CSAT score of 4.8 out of 5 before we started. So actually, whilst the agents were stressed, they were obviously soaking up and still doing a reasonable job, but they had a 4.8 CSAT score. In the groups that use this technology, we grafted on a decimal point. We moved it up to 4.9. So I don't know, again, we've looked at the technology. Agents behave differently. It puts a smile back in their voice once they've had these mini breaks. But the soft side is important. We know, Charlie, I'm old enough and cynical enough to know that unless there's money in it, unless there's a real good business case, a tangible business case, businesses really struggle to justify this stuff. Those numbers are real numbers. They actually mean real FTE equivalents and good business case. So we're confident that we've got those things aligned. Put those 3 use cases together, and you've got something just with those 3, fairly simple to implement. You've got some real powerful stuff that makes a huge difference to agents' lives and productivity and, God forbid, customer experience.
Yeah, as you said, there's some real tangible benefits there for the agent, the customer, and the business. And I think, just as a reflection on this entire conversation, it's really great to kind of see how much Cisco and Webex are innovating around the agent experience. And, you mentioned other tools in there, such as kind of real-time sentiment analysis. And there's many more kind of innovations that we could discuss today. But I think that kind of really shows, some really great agent-centric innovation. And yeah, I will make sure a link is included in the description for anybody who wants to kind of learn more about Webex's agent contact center agent solutions. But I think for now, Pete, it was a really great conversation, and thank you very much for joining me today.
Thanks, Charlie. Thanks for the opportunity.
Absolutely. And also thanks to everybody for watching. Bye for now.
Thank you.